Good morning and welcome to our daily devotional from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Horn. Very glad to have you on this Friday, August the 20th, 2021. And this week we have been reading in Ephesians chapter 6. And today I would like for us to focus on the final few verses of Ephesians chapter 6, that is 18 through 20. And as you know, this passage is the one in which the faithful are encouraged to put on armor and the armor of God. And here we have in 18 through 20, we have a change of pace and what I'm almost calling, well, I think at least, very least, a tragic picture in some ways. So let's read Ephesians 6, 18 through 20. Pray in the Spirit at all times, in every prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert and always persevere in supplication for all the saints. Pray also for me, so that when I speak, a message may be given to me to make known with boldness the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains. Pray that I may declare it boldly as I must speak. So after having these passages or these verses about the armor of God and the power of the divine and our access to divine power, we have this very humble picture of Paul in prison. And not only that, the verses return to a theme that is mentioned many times in Ephesians, and in fact, throughout the Pauline letters, which is that we must be constantly at prayer. And I think these verses are particularly striking in contrast to the verses which preceded, which show using the metaphors of armor for God's power. And I'm reminded of when Jesus spoke of not being afraid of those things that can hurt the flesh, but to be more concerned about the things of the Spirit. And I think that message is very consistent with Paul, or this letter to the church in Ephesus, than the book of Ephesians, where we've already seen in verse 12 that our struggle is not against enemies of blood and flesh. And I think this picture of Paul in chains and asking for boldness to preach the gospel message of peace, I think is an extraordinary contrast, and I think is a reminder to us as well that we do pray for deliverance from our sicknesses and our physical ailments, but our main concern in prayer is deliverance from the spiritual chains that would bind us and that would keep us from living and preaching the gospel. Some commentators have noted that perhaps these two verses, 19 and 20, are really the central message of the entire book. That is, to encourage the faithful to continue to pray and to look to Paul as an example of one who continues to preach boldly, even though he is in chains. And it seems very likely that Paul eventually did die in prison, and that the victory or the triumph of the gospel message is not always a deliverance from our physical ailments. In fact, it certainly is not, in that we will all die a physical death. But there is deliverance from slavery to the spiritual forces. There is deliverance that gives us power to speak boldly and to declare our faith. Let's close with this word from a prayer from W.E. Orchard. O God, source of the light that never fades and of the life that never ends, apart from whom all is darkness and death, we lift our dimmed faces to thee and long for thy life to flow through our wearied hearts. To some of us, this mortal life has brought little happiness or joy, though we sought it long and earnestly. The things on which we set our hearts have faded to shadows in our grasp. The things we dreamed to do, we have left all undone, and we are desolate. Before the gaze of others, we have dissembled our weariness and our unrest, but we cannot hear. It relieves our spirits, O our God, to confess what we are, that we are often disappointed and despairing. We've tried the broad, well-trodden path. We have followed the primrose way and played the pleasant game. Tears and burdens we have put far from us, and yet the flowers have faded at our feet, and we have found ourselves at last in the wilderness, alone. The wine of life turned to gall, its bread to ashes, our hearts weighed down with weariness and sick with fears. Can we retrace our steps and seek the crossways once again, where long ago we missed the path? Dimly we remember there a narrow way led upward to a place called Golgotha, where beyond we saw the sky break clear upon a city's towers. O shepherd of the lost, lead us there again. And if the returning way be too hard and long and sad for us to bear, of thy great love, lift us up and carry us like the lambs upon thy shoulders. Amen. Thank you for joining me this morning from Pilgrim Congregational Church. I'm Patrick Warren, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.